It's the most powerful show on television. High drama with intense energy. A show dedicated to a few brave souls who risk their lives for the sake of their craft. Its in-depth reporting goes to the core and unlocks the mysteries behind today's raciest sport. Motorsports. Catch it when you can.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Post Tech. Today we move on to episode number 10, coming off a very eventful weekend of racing at the Charlotte Motor Speedway after the Ausco 200 and Coca-Cola 600. Let's just get right into it. Kyle Larson wins in the number 57 car, a car that he owns, well, co-owns with David Gilliland and Johnny Gray, but it's only his second win as a car owner at NASCAR's top level. Granted, they won at Sonoma last year and they finished second in points, runner-up to Kyle Busch at Atlanta, but this is really a statement out of this organization. Even though the win kind of fell into their hands, it's still a sign of things to come, because all of us were worried that they were kind of losing their way. You know, they finished second in points last year after running half the season together with the 57 team, but through the first few races of the year, with the exception of Sonoma, which they almost won, we were beginning to worry that this team might have lost all their pace this season. Maybe they overextended their resources last year. But they were in position to win at Charlotte, and they pulled off the win with a little bit of luck, but they still had to do it. It was strategy out of Larson to hang back a little bit and save gas behind the 8 car of Reddick. And also, Larson only led 2 laps out of that race, lap 28 and lap 200. The only way to win a race a little bit better is just to win the last lap. But still, he almost led just the last lap, because he didn't lead for very long. Let's just say that. That 57 team was involved in an early race crash with Matt DiBenedetto, which made his win a little bit unpopular, because you know very well how popular Matty D is, especially right now in our sport. You know, about 6 or 7 years ago, people liked him, but not everybody really knew who he was, especially when he was driving for BK and getting last car titles in the Xfinity Series from start and parking with TriStar, I believe. Anyway, back on the subject of Larson, he fought back from that wreck that he probably should have wrecked out in, but he managed to steer to the inside of the 2 car and miss more or less getting any more damage. Had a flat tire throughout the race. Got involved in that incident with the 26 car of Ankrum, which also could have wrecked 10 cars if things would have went wrong. So it was definitely a hard-fought win for the number 57 team. And considering that it was the longest race of the year, the length of the race was what really allowed Larson to be able to go from the back to the front, to the back to the front, to the back to the front, many, many times over. It's because he had the amount of laps to do it. And that team, you know, they built a really fast car. There's a reason that they had top 5 pace. But most teams, once they get knocked down once, they can't find their way back to the front of the field. But so it really was a statement out of that organization. If only they would have been able to put a race together like this last year at Atlanta, we'd be calling them champions, because they had numerous amounts of trouble at Atlanta last season. You know, they were put a lap down. They were racing their way back towards the front. Had the race been a 600-mile race distance, they would have probably won the championship, because Kyle Busch was hanging on by a thread there at the end with that rear-end damage. But Larson's team has really put together something special. Being able to rebound after at least 4 incidents that should have knocked them out of winning contention, and going on to win the longest race of the year, the biggest endurance race of the season, they're legitimate contenders this season. Also, talking about legitimate contenders, the race at Charlotte was a big hit for the number 20 team of Brandon Jones. As you recall, they won the last 2 races coming into this event at Phoenix and Las Vegas. They swept those 2 races. So riding as high as you possibly could, even though they set 15th in points coming into the race. You know, they're looking for an opportunity to keep putting together those solid runs, win races, and have a shot at winning the regular season title. They ended up getting involved in a crash at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, which knocked them out of really any contention of getting a good finish. They still, I believe, did finish the race, but the number 20 team was completely off the pace and had absolutely no shot at it. So at least they didn't give up on the operation. They kept that number 20 car out, even though it was massively damaged. But still, it's going to be a big hit for them and their chances of winning the regular season championship, because every single race, obviously we get closer to the regular season finale at Daytona, every single race it becomes harder and harder to make up those points to really get there and be a contender for the top spot come Daytona. Complete disappointment for the number 8 team of Tyler Reddick. They led 69 laps, a race high, absolutely had the dominant car, had that race won. There was absolutely no way, had that 8 car stayed under full power, that Larson was going to get around him. Just way too fast. Larson tried for a good 10 laps. He couldn't get around him. In fact, Reddick led for about the last 30 laps without really much a challenge until that last lap. The car started to sputter down the back straightaway, dropped all the way down to 5th. Like I mentioned in the broadcast, it was very similar to the 2011 running, albeit we didn't have any, green-white checkers or late race restarts like that race had, which extended it to where Earnhardt ran out of gas. This was a situation where just the 8 team was running too hard. So Reddick ran out while everyone else was able to save their stuff. So in retrospect, this will be a big learning experience for the 8 team, Tyler Reddick in particular as a driver, learning how to conserve his equipment as he goes, but they definitely have the speed, at least at the mile and a half. So, you don't lead 69 laps at Charlotte for nothing. Like I mentioned in the race broadcast, that track is not your traditional cookie cutter. It has a whole lot of character for being a mile and a half racetrack and what we associate with mile and a halves ever since the late 90s when a bunch of them got built. To lead there and to lead the most laps at Charlotte is a real statement for a driver. So, as we go forward in the season, you have to watch out for that number 8 team because they should have put together a race win at Charlotte. And at this rate, they're at least going to score one victory this season. My bet is possibly another mile and a half. We got Kansas coming up in a couple months. That should be good for them. Reddick definitely loves to run the high line at these racetracks. He's a very aggressive race car driver. Again, that's kind of what ended up biting him with the fuel mileage situation. But Kansas is going to play right into his wheelhouse with his driving style and especially his team and the way that they've been able to set up those cars this year because they got a really strong mile and a half program. And if the rumors are true about Austin Dillon leaving RCR at the end of the year, Reddick has the ability to take the leadership role in RCR as a driver. I really believe it after the performance that he had in the 600. That team has what they need. They just need to put it together to get that last lap and take a checkered flag. That's all they need. You want to talk about an organization that's really starting to prove themselves, though, the number 24 team of William Byron. We have not really talked about them very much ever since they came in to NASCAR. The 24 team just has struggled and struggled. They went through multiple crew chiefs, Kevin Mendering, through Chad Knaus. Chad didn't win a single race with them either. I mean, you'd think if any crew chief was going to win you a race, it'd be Chad Knaus. But, then again, if you look farther back, he didn't win with Stacey Compton, but that was 2000 and Melling Racing about 15 years past their prime. But you'd think that Chad, after all those years of success with Jimmy Johnson, would have been able to deliver something with William Byron. The chemistry just wasn't there. There were two different personalities. But Rudy Fugle, who worked with Kyle Busch Motorsports in the Camping World Truck Series for years and years, won a tremendous amount of races, won multiple races with William Byron in Williams' rookie year in the Camping World Truck Series. They should have won the championship if it weren't for a blown engine at Phoenix. They partnered this year. Rudy went up to the Cup level to crew chief William Byron. They're working together this season. In the last 3 races, they have scored 3 top 10s and 1 top 5. In the last 3 events, less than 1 month, they have gone from 37th in points to 24th. That is an incredible rebound. And even though in 2 of those races, Charlotte and Las Vegas were mile and a halves, getting that top 5 at Phoenix, I think, really proves something. This organization is on the way towards the front of the field. And after finishing the last 3 weeks in the top 10, and one of them top 5, they may just have race-winning pace this year. And even though, the 600 had a whole lot of comers and goers, there was some, underfunded cars up front. Landon Castle won Stage 2 even, which that was a fantastic move on the last lap of that stage. But I think it's really proven something out of Hendrick Motorsports to do that for the last 3 weeks. More than just get a top 10 to 600, but to do it at Phoenix and to do it at Las Vegas. All that in a row. I think is a really, really big statement out of their organization, especially the one at Phoenix, because they were not one of the teams that put tires on there at the end. It's not like how Austin Cindric drove through the field because he put tires on and ended up ultimately finishing in third position. If that race would have went 10 more laps, I think he would have won it, because he was running down the 20 and 11 cars who were beating off of each other in the last couple laps. But anyway, Byron, on old tires, finished in the top 5. About 50 lap older tires than the top 3 finishers. So that was a big statement for, car control and as a driver. Opposite, I guess you could say, of Reddick, Byron is a very conservative race car driver, especially for his age. He has a lot of wisdom in how he's able to save the rear tires in particular at Phoenix. We brought that softer tire compound there, more horsepower, so it's really hard to keep the wheel spin on the rear end down, and so you're going to beat up your right rear tire. He managed to keep that under control and finish top 5. This team, number 24 team at Hendrick Motorsports, definitely has something to prove in these next few months. Byron is actually a NASCAR Xfinity Series winner with a high downforce package, mind you, at Indianapolis, the Oval, a number of years ago, back when he was making his way up to the top level. I believe he won that in 2017, which was his only full season in the Xfinity Series. Most drivers get more than one. But anyway, considering that he has that win there, Indianapolis might be a good shot for William Byron to score his first career win. He's got the experience at the track over the last couple of years. He's got the pace to do it. He's got a great crew chief on the pit box. It could finally be his weekend. And they're also going to run the same package at Pocono for the doubleheader races, so you might need to watch out for Byron at Pocono Raceway on top of Indianapolis. So, Charlotte, the 600, produced a night of the underdogs. Like I mentioned, the number 89 team showed remarkable speed, top 5 pace throughout the night. They even won stage number 2 in a 3-wide pass on the final lap of the stage with an incredible move. Castle restarted that final restart on stage 2. 1 lap to go. 1.5 miles from the green flag to the green-white checkered flag for that stage. He restarted in 5th and won the stage by about a car length above Denny Hamlin by the time they got back to the start-finish line. So it was a incredible restart for the number 89 team. They proved that they had 1 lap speed. Absolutely proved it. Greg Biffle, unfortunately, that night ended his string of top 5 finishes after getting involved in 2 wrecks, but his teammate, Drew Herring, is the real subject because he showed really, really good speed throughout the Coca-Cola 600. In fact, he finished top 10, brought the 96 car home in 10th position. But on top of that, he led a couple laps in the 96 car. So really, he's starting to prove his worth in the Cup Series as the driver of the 96 full-time. Pretty much everyone was worried that it was going to become Greg Biffle's ride pretty soon if Drew Herring doesn't start to pick up the pieces and run up front. Well, he started to do just that. I wouldn't ask much more out of him. Leading laps in the 600, getting a top 10 finish. It's a pretty good payout, getting 10th place in a crown jewel race. So you might need to watch out for Drew Herring as the season progresses. And also we had Tyler Ankrum finally finding speed in the number 26 car for GMS. They went full-time this year after a lot of success last year with a part-time program with Ankrum as the driver. They even won the shootout at Texas Motor Speedway, but they had a lot of struggles throughout the first 12 races of the year, but they led 9 laps and finished 7th in the race to boot in the Coca-Cola 600. So they might have a great second half of the regular season that might be good enough to earn them a playoff spot. You never really know. Maybe we won't have more than 16 winners coming into the playoffs. There might be a few spots up for grabs. Last year, we had every spot taken up by a winner, which is what actually knocked Chase Briscoe out of a shot of making the playoffs, because he would have done it on points if the wins were not a factor. But the wins kind of trapped him out because Briscoe didn't win until we got to Bristol, which was a playoff race, the final race of the round of 16. So it ended up eliminating him because of it. But with all the success going with Tyler Ankrum so far, if we don't get 16 winners, or if he just flat out wins a race, which he has the pace to going off of last season's success, Ankrum might be a legitimate playoff contender, as well as GMS Racing. We also had tough breaks for two drivers who had a lot of success through stage number 1, those being Kevin Harvick, the regular season point leader coming into the race, and Daniel Suarez, who won stage number 1. They were running very, very well, battling with each other for top 5 spots. Kevin Harvick got into trouble on pit road in the middle of stage number 1, actually got into Daniel Suarez. It caused a little bit of damage on the front end of the 4 car. They dropped 1 lap down on pit road, never really recovered from there. And then Daniel Suarez, after winning stage number 1, came down pit road and he stalled. And that dropped him 1 lap down. So both Harvick and Suarez were trapped a lap behind the race leader very early, and it kept them out of any sort of winning contention. Also, Quinn Half, after winning the pole, it proved good, definite 1-lap speed for the number 40 team. But unfortunately for them, they only led 1 lap in the whole 600, and they finished outside the top 15. So they have qualifying pace right now, but really none of the Chip Ganassi cars have showed real race-winning pace for the last month or two. So they need to kind of get their ducks in a row and see if they can find that performance once again that they had early in the year, in particular with Justin Allgaier after almost winning at Circuit of the Americas, but they got beat out by Denny Hamlin. Here's an update on your dirt ringers entering the race at Bristol Motor Speedway, at the Bristol Motor Speedway dirt track coming up this weekend. We have Dave Blaney on the entry list, driving the number 02 for Team Penske. So he's joining his son to drive at Roger Penske's organization. It should be a good shot for Dave Blaney. Obviously, the Buckeye Bullet is a fantastic dirt racer. We'll see how he can adapt to running the stock car on dirt. We know that he's ran the Mud Summer Classic years ago with Brad Keselowski racing. Now with Penske at the Cup level, it could be his first real big shot at winning a Cup Series race because, you know, he was with a couple big teams, in particular the one year he got with RCR, but just never found chemistry. But with the unknowns of a dirt surface in the Cup level, it might be Dave Blaney's best shot because a lot of the Cup drivers don't come from a dirt racing background, especially the veterans. They come from purely asphalt racing because that was a bit of a strange period in our sports history, you know, where we had a good 50 years without a dirt race. Everyone who was getting hired had absolutely no dirt experience, or at least limited, until the last few years, last 10 or so years. So drivers such as, you know, a Kevin Harvick, a Daniel Suarez, someone like that, have no experience on it. It might be a good advantage for Dave Blaney. I wouldn't quite doubt Dave Blaney pulling off a win, especially with Penske horsepower. Also, we have the number 51 car. It's not Cody Ware. It is Bobby Pierce. I'm sure you recognize that name. Popular contender in late model racing all across the U.S. in Lucas Oil Dirt late model racing and Morton Buildings World of Outlaw late models. Bobby won a pole in one of the Eldora races in the Truck Series a few years ago, finished runner-up in one of those races. He'll be running for Rick Ware in the number 51 car. You might be thinking, well, that's a bad idea. It's a Rick Ware car. Believe me, he ran that number 63 for the Mittler brothers in the Camping World Truck Series, and that was a team that didn't exactly have the best equipment on earth, and he made it look like they were completely championship contenders for that one race. So maybe he can bring Rick Ware's organization to the front, and also another Rick Ware driver, the number 27 of Chris Windom. I'm sure that's going to be a fun one for Windom, making his NASCAR Cup Series debut. The other Rick Ware car, the number 52, will be driven by J.J. Yaley, who's not really a ringer, but he has a lot of dirt racing experience. From USAC and midgets and things of that sort. He has a lot of track time on dirt tracks and is very successful at it, a championship driver on dirt. So I wouldn't quite doubt J.J. Yaley having a good run either. The number 5 for Levine Family Racing is entered with driver Michael Self. As you know from the Arca Menard series, he's had a lot of stock car dirt racing practice, and he's very good at it going off of his Arca Menard series races, so you wouldn't quite count out Michael Self because he's got practice with full-bodied stock cars on dirt tracks. Number 44 for NY Racing, they got that partnership with Thor Sport to begin the year. They have Ben Rhodes on the entry list. So Ben is not exactly from a dirt racing background, but he has showed good speed in the Camping World Truck Series on dirt tracks. So that's why they picked him up to run this race. They didn't get someone like, say, Johnny Sauter because Johnny is from an asphalt racing background, 2001 ASA champion. And they didn't get Matt Crafton just because Crafton simply wasn't interested. He actually denied the offer. That was their initial pick because Crafton is a dirt racing winner at Eldora. The number 36, the partnership car between LGR and Front Row Motorsports, is actually entered with Haley Deegan as the driver. So that is definitely going to be an interesting story. She's an ARCA Menards West Series winner at the Las Vegas Dirt Track, which was actually that night more like a sand track. But I would not doubt that Deegan could possibly get a top 10 if she makes the race through the heat races. That might be the only challenge, because really anything can happen in those heats. But Deegan is definitely going to have a good run due to her extensive experience on dirt tracks. You know, nowadays drivers start pretty darn young, so if you're still young, you have about 10 years of experience, and that's more than like Kevin Harvick's ever had, for instance. Shane Golobic is entered to drive the number 78 for Live Fast Motorsports. Initially, it was rumored Tony Stewart was going to drive that car, but I'm assuming after all the Stewart-Haas split rumors and all that, that deal kind of fell apart. So the 78 will be Shane Golobic. Should be a good run there. Number 66, Mike Marlar. He finished fourth in the Camping World Truck Series race at Eldora back in 2019. Should be a good run for him in the MBM Motorsports 66 if they can make the race. Stuart Friesen is entered in the number 45 car for the whole 2311 Phoenix Racing partnership. So it's more or less Phoenix Racing's entry spot and pit road, crew members and certain amounts of equipment. It's 2311's car running under that slot. So it's more or less just a renumber of the 09 to 45 to run some 2311 equipment because, Phoenix Racing didn't actually intend on running any more than just the few super speedway races this season. So 2311 saw that as a good opportunity to partner with Phoenix Racing, which is what has led to Hamlin driving the 5 truck in the truck series as well. But they figured it would be a good opportunity to partner and get Stuart Friesen into the Cup Series in a Toyota, the number 45, likely Homar Toyota. And finally, the number 32 for Go Fast Racing will be Kenny Schrader himself, driving the Dryden Ford Mustang. It should be, going off his words, his final career, definitive final career NASCAR Cup Series start. It's really going to tie his whole career back together, getting his final Cup Series start on dirt. Because believe it or not, he's not old enough to have ever ran a Cup Series race on a dirt track, because the last one was 51 years ago. Schrader started in the mid-1980s. So he was actually late to the party by about 14 years. But Schrader's finally going to be able to do it and run a Cup Series race on dirt. And so now, after just a quick commercial break, we'll be back to give the highlights of the Pinty's truck race on dirt from Bristol Motor Speedway. It was a fun one. We'll see you in just a minute. NASCAR on Speed Station is being brought to you by RFJ, the official home of the RFJ AI series. By Knife Friend 725, the brains behind Project Retroval. And by Anthony's Online Simulation League. Welcome back. Before we get on to the race highlights, let's give you the race analysis. Stage number 1 ended on lap 40. Stage 2 ended on lap 90 of a 150-lap race. And 150 laps around a .533-mile racetrack is a little bit under 80 miles. So it was not a very long race in distance, especially not compared to the Coca-Cola 600 that we just came off of. But that's the natural nature of dirt racing, is having very short fights to the finish from the drop of the green flag to the checkered flag. It definitely produced that result too. And so, let's christen this race with our intros. In the regular season point standings, entering the race at the Bristol Motor Speedway dirt track, Sheldon Creed currently holds the point lead with a tight advantage above Ty Dillon, who is only 2 points out of stealing the lead off of Creed. Then only 3 points back is Dawson Cram. So it's a remarkably tight battle in the point standings. Then Ty Gibbs, 16 points out of the point lead, as well as Grant Enfinger. Gibbs gets the tiebreaker with his win at Talladega. Casey Mears is 19 points out of the point lead. Crafton is 24. Brett Holmes, 31. Austin Terrio, 35 points out. And Christian Eckes is 39 points out of the point lead. And surprisingly, in qualifying, Gio Scelzi won the pole for Bill McAnally Racing. Scelzi, of course, competed for them all of last season in the ARCA Menards West Series and signed on to run the dirt races on the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series schedule as he switched from an asphalt racing career back to the world of outlaws for this season, but he's still got the deal to remain with McAnally for the dirt races in the Camping World Truck Series and in the ARCA Menard Series, and he is sure making the most of it. In his Truck Series debut, he comes out and scores the pole, which means he is locked in to the All-Star race in the postseason. Outside him, Grant Enfinger made the race. As you recall, last week at Charlotte, he DNQ'd, so it's a good comeback after that incident. The number 14 truck of Tony Stewart, making his 7th career Camping World Truck Series start. He qualified the TSR Chevrolet in 8th position. Number 17 of Kyle Larson qualified in 10th. 61 of Christopher Bell in 12th position. Number 3 truck of Logan Schuhart qualified in 13th position. Number 03 of Sheldon Hodenshield qualified in 15th spot. Number 5 truck of Martin Truex Jr. qualified in 17th, making his first start of the year in the number 5 truck for Phoenix Racing and first Camping World Truck Series start in more than a decade. Number 29 of Brad Keselowski in 18th position. Point leader Sheldon Creed in 19th. Then we have the number 45 truck of Ryan Unziker, making his Camping World Truck Series debut. He qualified the 45 in 21st position. Then we have the number 44 truck of TJ Bell qualifying in 22nd. Number 53 of Chase Briscoe qualified in 23rd spot. And the number 39 of Ryan Newman with a brand new team owned by Brad Means, son of Jimmy Means, qualified in 24th position. Norm Benning is back with his GMS chassis and qualified the 6th truck in 25th spot. Jessica Friesen, wife of Camping World Truck Series regular Stuart Friesen, qualified the 62 truck in 26th position. David Gravel, driving the number 24 for GMS Racing, qualified in 28th position. Number 11 truck of Craig Kinser, driving for Spencer Davis Motorsports, qualified in 34th spot. Number 56 of Mike Marlar, driving for the Hill Brothers, qualified in 36th position. And we also had Kyle Busch qualifying the number 51 truck in 38th spot. And folks, with this being the final race of the Kyle Busch Bounty, Marcus Lemonis has set this race up to where a Cup Series ringer does not need to win the race to get the money. They just need to simply beat Kyle Busch. And if that doesn't happen, if Busch still cannot be knocked off the mountaintop, the money will go to whoever wins the race, regardless of it being Kyle Busch himself, a Cup Series driver, an Xfinity driver, or a Truck Series driver. It will go to the winner of the race, and the money will be donated to a charity of their choice. We also had the number 83 truck of Aaron Reitzel for Roth Motorsports fail to make the race in qualifying after getting up into the fluff, up in the higher grooves. Unfortunately, put an end to his chances of making the Bristol Motor Speedway dirt race. And we also had the third place runner in points coming into tonight's event, Dawson Cram. He failed to make the field as well. So in the last 2 weeks at Charlotte and here at Bristol, we had a top 3 runner in the point standings fail to make the race. So this ought to be a big impact in the point standings for Dawson Cram. But it might be a good shot for Sheldon Creed, especially with his dirt racing experience, to put a larger gap on the field in the point standings. The green flag came out with the field already starting to fan out and use almost every single lane down to turn number 1. We had 4 and 5 wide battles. Stuart Friesen and Tony Stewart all the way up into the cushion, with the 50 truck of Gio Scelzi on the inside and the 98 of Grant Enfinger up on the outside. Scelzi took away the race lead early. There you see Friesen in the 52 truck still working the very top lane, finding a little bit of racing surface up in that fluff, but look at that, the 61 of Bell got up into the outside wall, overstepped the usable racing line up on the top. On lap number 3, the number 17 truck of Kyle Larson dives all the way down to the inside of Michael Self and actually goes 5 wide all the way down almost onto the pit road, getting around Michael Self, Jesse Little, Stuart Friesen, and Austin Terrio in that move. On lap number 4, there was a very dicey moment farther back. Ty Dillon slides up the racetrack just a little bit, making contact with the 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek. Kyle Busch is down on his inside. Busch in the 51 makes contact with him, turning him almost down into the attenuator wall, but the 31 truck actually hits a slight corner of the concrete wall, not straight on, but hits the normal plane of the wall with his left front tire, actually giving the 31 truck a tire rub, and Ty Dillon unfortunately has to come down pit road. And by lap number 5, Kyle Larson has raced his way all the way into 4th position, and we have a ThorSport battle for 2nd with Matt Crafton taking the spot away from the number 98 of Grant Enfinger. Lap number 6, 2 truck of Creed moves just a little bit up off the bottom of the racetrack. Schuhart makes contact with him, sending the 2 truck to the inside wall. Schuhart has to catch that truck down to turn number 1. It sets up a 5-wide move, and then watch the Nice Motorsports trucks of Unzicker and TJ Bell. 45 truck makes contact with the 44, turning Bell into the inside wall. Hard hit for Bell right here as he gets hit by Mike Marlar, almost turning over, and then up into the 11 truck of Craig Kinser, bringing out our first caution flag. And you know what? Norm Benning actually has raced all the way into 13th position in his own number 6 truck. On the restart, the 88 truck of Crafton gets the jump and decides to try and take the outside lane and uses a little bit of the cushion to try and turn the 88 truck, but he actually lost time in doing so. There's Crafton utilizing the cushion, but it lets the number 98 truck of Grant Enfinger, who is in the nice compacted dirt down on the inside. He might not be getting the runs down the straightaway, but he's getting around the number 88 truck through the turns. And this racetrack is more corner than it is straight, so Enfinger actually gets the advantage, and after a few laps of battling, takes up the 2nd position. And you can tell this racetrack, unlike a traditional dirt track, has a lot of dust being kicked up onto the racetrack from the fluff, as they call it, up on the high lanes of the turns. Funny thing is, traditionally on the concrete surface, right up by the wall is the fastest lane because this track is progressively banked. Right now, it's almost unusable. On lap 16, the number 61 truck of Christopher Bell hit pit road to try and clear the grill on that 61 truck. As you can tell, a lot of dust being kicked up right now. It's clogging a lot of the grills on these race trucks. And just take a look at this move down on the inside by the number 92 truck of Austin Terrio. He gets moved off the bottom by the 25 and 99 trucks. And once again, they're going 5 wide at Bristol. And they make it work. This track is so wide because they put dirt even onto the apron. You can fit that many trucks comfortably. And they actually ran this racetrack in a little bit, so it's very tacky as well. There's a lot of moisture in the surface, except once you get up to the very top lanes. That's why it's fluff up there. But you can really run a lot of lanes right now when you're on the actual racing surface because of how tacky it is. But along with that, it's clogging a lot of the grills on these trucks because you have the dust, which is the dry particles, but also the wet mud, which is clogging these trucks' grills as well. Because the mud gets in there off the tacky surface, then the dust covers that. There you see the 6 truck of Norm Benning on the inside of the 52, carving his way through the field. Lap traffic is a crucial factor in dirt racing. You'll learn that watching enough late model or sprint car races. So trying to get around the number 61 truck, the lap truck of Christopher Bell, Gio Selzy actually jumps up to the top to try and get those runs around him down the straightaway. On lap 20, the number 39 truck of Ryan Newman jumps the cushion on the exit of turn number 4, and it actually sets up an almost 6-wide situation. Newman into the wall. That ricochets down to Jessica Friesen, then to Brett Holmes, who makes contact with Friesen, turning her down into Craig Kinser. Then there's the 4 and 45 of Unzicker and John Hunter Nemechek. Nemechek gets up into the air, fortunately does not turn over, gets on top of the bed of the number 11 truck of Craig Kinser, sets back down onto the racetrack, but a very large accident on the front straightaway here at Bristol involving 5 trucks. Here's a slightly closer shot of the number 4 truck getting up into the air, gets hit by the 11 of Kinser and the 45 of Unzicker, jumps into the air, also forces the 45 a little bit into the air, and this accident happens right up in front of the number 51 truck of Kyle Busch. See, there's the wreck right up in front, and Busch is just fortunate enough to be a couple truck lengths behind the incident. But unfortunately for him, the number 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek was involved in this one. And also this caution coming out with the number 61 truck of Christopher Bell trapped 1 lap down. That means that Selzy has a lap truck buffer back to the 2nd place runner of Grant Enfinger. Keep your eyes also on the number 14 truck of Tony Stewart. He has raced his way into 4th position. Lap 26 on the restart. 98 truck of Grant Enfinger sends it deep down to the inside with Selzy taking the middle lane. And the number 17 truck hopped the cushion just a little bit, got up into the outside wall. Fortunately, aerodynamics are not that big of a factor here. But now the number 98 battling side by side with the 50 of Gio Selzy for the top spot. 50 truck holds momentum on the exit of the corners and onto the straightaways, but the 90 trying to pressure him on the inside with now the yellow flag coming out. 50 and 98 trucks battle back to the start-finish line. From the Colossus camera, it is the 50, edging out the 98 at the stripe. Here's what brought out the caution. Yet again, Craig Kinser involved in it. Gets to the inside, the 18 truck of Ty Gibbs, and sends him around on the front straightaway, turning him into the inside wall. Also, the 23 truck of Brett Holmes got very heavy front end damage by pounding the rear end of the number 11 truck of Kinser. The number 6 truck of Norm Benning has actually raced his way into 6th position. And on lap number 33, the number 50 truck of Selzy gets a very slow restart. That allows the 98 to go back down to the inside and force Selzy to use just a little bit more of the racetrack up. 61 truck this time gets up into the outside wall. 88 truck of Matt Crafton on the inside of Tony Stewart, with Grant Enfinger taking away the race lead for Thorsport. Also following Matt Crafton on the inside is the number 6 truck of Norm Benning, getting around Stuart Friesen and the lap truck of Christopher Bell to move up into the 5th position. Matt Crafton finally gets to the inside, the 50 truck of Gio Selzy to take up 2nd, making it a Thorsport 1-2. You also see the 51 truck of Kyle Busch on pit road, dropping a lap down. Overheating trouble on the KBM number 51. Same exact problem on the number 39 of Ryan Newman. At the end of lap 36, 14 truck of Stewart sends it to the inside of the 88 of Crafton, almost forcing Stewart to use up some of the apron. And Tony Stewart goes 3 wide to the bottom of both Crafton and Selzy, taking up the 2nd position in the 14 Advance Auto Parts Chevrolet. On lap 39, the yellow flag comes out with the number 98 of Grant Enfinger holding about a 1-second lead above Tony Stewart to take the stage number 1 victory. Enfinger wins the first stage in series history at the Bristol Motor Speedway dirt track above Tony Stewart, Matt Crafton, Stuart Friesen, and Norm Benning in 5th. And here's what happened to bring out the caution. Lap 39, the already damaged number 56 truck of Marlar gets hit by the 12 truck of Eckes coming off of turn number 2, sending the 56 truck around and bringing out the caution flag. And because the number 51 truck of Kyle Busch currently sets 2 laps down in 33rd position, looks like right now the bounty money is going to go to Kyle Larson. And believe it or not, the number 8 truck of Camden Murphy has actually raced his way into 9th position. And on lap number 44, the number 52 truck tries the very outside lane, trying to use up some of the cushion, maybe some of the fluff, and actually ends up losing about 2 spots with that move. And the 17 truck of Kyle Larson got up into the outside wall as well. And this time by the 88 truck of Crafton, back to the inside, the 14 of Stewart. Stewart clears him on the exit of turn 4. Lap 46, both the 62 of Jessica Friesen and 53 of Chase Briscoe on pit road for overheating trouble. And remerging with the field, the number 62 truck of Jessica Friesen caused a near accident with the number 8 truck of Murphy and 39 of Newman. Those 3 almost end up wrecking each other, but somehow all 3 of them keep it together. Lap number 50, we have yet another 5-wide move, almost being made 6 by the 87 of Timothy Peters. 60 of Mears makes contact with the 29 of Keselowski, turning him into the inside wall, almost straight on. But that 29 truck continued, and we actually got no caution. 51 truck of Kyle Busch actually got boxed in on the exit of turn number 4 and ran the 29 of Keselowski. Lap 52, we have a close moment with the number 24 truck of David Gravel on the inside, the 87 of Timothy Peters. These 2 almost hit the attenuator wall coming off of turn number 2 because they're running so low down the racetrack. They continue to make contact, both hitting the very inside wall, but they both managed to continue without wrecking each other and also without bringing out a yellow. On lap 53, the number 99 truck of Ben Rhodes gets around the 6 of Norm Benning to take up the 4th position. Rhodes taking up 4th means that we have 3 Thorsport trucks in the top 4. By lap 60, Ben Rhodes actually ran down his teammate Matt Crafton and battling side by side with him for the 3rd position. Crafton runs wide through 3 and 4 and allows the number 99 truck to take up 3rd spot onto the front stretch. Number 14 truck of Tony Stewart still resides in 2nd, about 1 second behind race leader Grant Enfinger. And by lap 61, the number 03 truck of Sheldon Hodenshield has actually raced his way into the top 10, now trying to get to the inside of Kyle Larson for 9th. Lap 64, number 52 truck of Stuart Friesen makes contact with the lap truck of TJ Bell coming off of turn 2, sending Bell to the inside wall with a very hard impact on the left side, cutting down the left front tire, causing this near incident as well with the number 92 truck of Austin Terrio giving heavy damage to the 92. Both BKR trucks struggling. The number 44 truck's accident ultimately brought out the caution flag, with still the number 98 truck of Grant Enfinger, your leader, above the 14 of Tony Stewart by 1 second. And on the restart on lap number 71, there's yet another 5-wide move through turns 1 and 2. Sheldon Creed makes contact with the 6 truck of Norm Benning, sending him into the inside wall with a hard impact. And then Logan Schuhart plows in as well, but the caution flag was actually already out for the number 45 truck of Unziker, who was turned by the 62 of Friesen. But then here's a strange situation. The 51 truck of Kyle Busch makes contact with the 45 of Unziker while under caution. We're already under the yellow flag. The 51 truck of Kyle Busch turns him into the attenuator wall on the backstretch pit, turning the 45 truck upside down. And Kyle Busch was actually parked in this race for this accident. These two had not ran into each other over the course of the race in any sort of intentional way, although the 45 truck was racing him hard to begin the race and also was involved in that accident that wrecked out the number 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek. Here's the onboard with Kyle Busch. You can tell the caution lights are already on, so the yellow flag's out. He slows down in time for the 45, then turns right into the 45 truck, sending the 45 truck hard into the attenuator wall and the water barrels, turning him over. And whether or not it was intentional, the real reason that NASCAR would take officiating action on this accident is the fact that it happened under caution. It was merely avoidable. Had the number 51 truck just stopped instead of getting onto the throttle and trying to steer out of it, you could argue that he turned to the right to try and miss the 45 truck, but he was already well to the inside of Unziker's truck. Fortunately, Unziker uninjured in this accident. The water barrels did their job, but it did turn over the number 45 truck, knocking him out of the race. Here's just a shot of the accident from the pit road wall. An incredibly fast stop for the number 45 truck of Unziker. He hit the wall going about 44 miles an hour. Also, the number 51 truck was 2 laps down when that accident occurred. The 45 truck was 4 laps down. So there was even less of a reason for it to happen because Unziker was actually behind the 51 truck of Kyle Busch. So Busch was called to the hauler. After the race, you can also tell him speeding just a little bit to get onto pit road. He's likely frustrated, especially because of the way that this race has gone, with 2 of his trucks being out and himself being completely out of contention of defending the Kyle Busch bounty money. And NASCAR has determined that Kyle Busch will set out of at least the Food City Dirt Race on the NASCAR Cup Series side. The named replacement is John Hunter Nemechek, his Camping World Truck Series driver. So Nemechek will race the number 18 car in the Food City Dirt Race here at Bristol. Kyle Busch will not be at the racetrack. He will likely be placed on probation as well. The full list of penalties have not been announced. We do not know whether or not this will be a multi-race suspension either, due to the multiple recent incidents with the driver in the number 18 car. If you recall, he started 4 crashes at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So NASCAR has been looking at Kyle Busch for the last few weeks. It all just kind of came to a head here tonight. So whether or not this will be multi-race, we really don't know yet. Probation is likely coming for Kyle Busch, and we have yet to hear word on Mars other than the fact that they will not be representing John Hunter Nemechek in the Food City Dirt Race. And after the restart, with a few great passes on the inside line, getting around the 52 truck of Stuart Friesen, 50 of Gio Scelzi, and 99 of Ben Rhodes, Sheldon Creed has actually raced his way all the way into 4th position. Lap 78, On Point Motorsports teammates of Hawden Shield and Poole collide, turning each other down to the inside wall. A whole lot of the grip is right by the apron, so that's why they've been hugging the bottom, which has led to a few near misses so far, but also quite a few incidents. On lap 80, Tony Stewart gets to the inside of Grant Enfinger in the number 98 truck. These two battling side by side for the top spot. The 12 truck of Eckes was on pit road for a grill cleaning. And still Enfinger holding the momentum off the outside. Stewart having the preferred lane down on the bottom. And And after numerous laps of side-by-side battling between the number 98 and 14 trucks, Tony Stewart finally clears the 98 of Grant Enfinger to take away the top spot in the final few laps of stage number 2. Lap 86, the 12 truck of Eckes is right up in front of race leader Tony Stewart and abruptly decides to come down pit road, forcing Stewart way up the racetrack to have to miss the 12 truck. Otherwise, he would have just rammed the rear end of the 12 truck of Eckes, with now Sheldon Creed racing his way into third and challenging the 98 of Enfinger for second. On lap 88, Sheldon Creed has taken up the second spot off the 98 of Grant Enfinger, trying to chase down Tony Stewart in the final 2 laps of the stage. On the final lap of stage number 2, Tony Stewart holds the lead by 0.6 of a second above Sheldon Creed, gets to the inside the 31 truck of Ty Dillon, putting him yet another lap down, and off of turn 4, Tony Stewart wins stage number 2 in the Pinty's truck race on dirt. Creed in second, Enfinger third, Friesen fourth, and Selzy in fifth. Lap 92, Tony Stewart leads the field onto pit road for the only pit stop that you need to make. The number 14 team got a very slow stop, with Stuart Friesen taking away the race lead off of pit road above the number 2 of Sheldon Creed. Stewart finally getting off in third, then Gio Selzy fourth, and Kyle Larson moving up into fifth position. But once again, bad luck strikes on the number 98 team of Grant Enfinger, blowing up under caution. And when the green flag flies for the final stage, there is 5 lap trucks restarting in front of race leader Stuart Friesen. Down into turn number 1, the 2 truck of Creed jumps the cushion and gets up into the outside wall, allowing Tony Stewart to get by on the bottom. Larson sends it in 5 wide once again. And Creed once again walls it on the exit of turn number 4. Larson in the third spot, getting around Gio Selzy. Lap 100, the number 3 truck of Logan Schuhart jumps the cushion as well and gets up into the outside wall. Guess what? A few more trucks followed, with the 09 of Parsons and 99 of Rhodes slapping the outside wall in the exit of turn 2. While Selzy and Larson battle side by side, the 8 truck of Camden Murphy sent it in all the way down on the bottom, using up just a little bit of what you would call the apron with his left side tires, taking up the 3rd position in the 8 truck for Nemco, as Larson actually ran into him just a little bit right there. And now we have a battle for the race lead. Tony Stewart on the inside, Stuart Friesen up on the outside. After about 4 laps of side-by-side dueling, Tony Stewart finally edges ahead of the 52 truck of Stuart Friesen to retake the race lead. But then just 1 lap later, through turns 3 and 4, Stewart abruptly slows down on the exit of turn number 4. Guess what? A flat right rear tire on the 14 truck of Stewart has to come down pit road and actually loses 2 laps in the process. An unfortunate end to Tony Stewart's winning hopes. 17-second lap times on the dirt surface in comparison to 15-second laps on the concrete, but it's still immensely fast and very hard to rebound from having to pit unscheduled under green, and Stewart did not rebound from this tire failure. Stewart's troubles did lead to the number 52 truck of Stuart Friesen taking away the race lead by 1 second above the now second-place runner Camden Murphy and third-place runner of Brendan Poole. Casey Mears has also driven his way up into 4th position, getting around Ty Majeski. And as you can tell, quite a few asphalt racers running towards the front. In particular, Mears, who comes from an open wheel background initially, and the 55 of Majeski, who started out in asphalt late models, very similarly to Johnny Sauter's development path. Lap 101, the number 11 truck of Craig Kinser finally completely overheats, and he pulls it down pit road and then ultimately into the garage, with the number 11 truck dropping out of tonight's race. I should mention that the number 4 truck of John Hunter Nemechek actually still is on the lead lap after all the troubles he's had over the course of tonight's race. Not with race-winning pace, which is what I meant earlier by him being knocked out of the race, but he is not DNF'd, and he's currently running with Johnny Sauter and Timothy Peters for the 19th position. And on lap 113, the 60 truck of Casey Mears actually ran down the 30 of Brendan Poole. Poole runs it wide through 3 and 4 and allows Mears to take up the 3rd spot. And finally, on lap number 115, a caution flag comes out for both debris on the racetrack from multiple trucks getting up into the outside wall and Tony Stewart's flat tire, and as well the dust that has accumulated all around the racetrack. On the restart, Stuart Friesen has a lap truck buffer to the second place runner Camden Murphy. He has Brad Keselowski, Tony Stewart, and Chase Briscoe separating him from the 8 truck. Keselowski obviously very far off the pace. It forces Stewart all the way up to the outside, and he hops the cushion and hard up into the outside wall. And that allows Camden Murphy to try and split the difference and go through the middle with the 60 truck of Mears all the way down the inside, 53 truck up into the outside wall. And now Casey Mears takes up the second position off of Murphy. Lap 123, the caution flag comes out as the slow truck of Brad Keselowski gets hooked by the number 18 of Ty Gibbs down into turn number 1 and gets finished off by the number 97 of Jesse Little. And this has ultimately brought out the caution flag. Lap 129, the 17 truck of Larson tries to guard the bottom lane, but the 13 truck of Sauter forces him off the bottom and goes almost 4 wide down the front straightaway and takes the spot off the 17 truck of Larson. We also had a close moment on the exit of turn 2. Matt Crafton hops the cushion, gets up into the outside wall. That goes down into the 25 of Michael Self and into the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed, but they all managed to catch it. Also, the number 14 truck of Tony Stewart has actually cleared the 60 of Casey Mears. Now we have a battle for second between Selzy, the pole sitter, and the 60 truck of Mears. Lap 134, the 3-lap down truck of Stewart gets to the inside. The race leader slides out, almost makes contact, entering turn number 3 as the yellow flag waves, and Stewart actually gets back one of his laps by dueling with the 52 truck, and the 50 of Gio Selzy has raced his way back into second. Here's what brought out the caution flag. The 5 truck of Martin Truex Jr., 62 of Jessica Friesen, and 87 of Timothy Peters racing each other. Friesen leaves a little bit of the bottom lane open. Timothy Peters tries to take advantage of it, makes contact with the 62, and because they run so far down on the bottom, because they covered the apron with the dirt as well, 62 truck gets turned into the attenuator wall with the 87, and the caution flag comes out. And the reason that this crash did not lead to a suspension for Timothy Peters is because it happened under green. NASCAR did not like the fact that the Kyle Busch-Ryan Unzicker crash happened already after the caution flag had been out for about 10 or 15 seconds. Busch was supposed to yield at the caution flag. He did not, which is what led to that crash. NASCAR also suspects it may have been intentional because the 51 truck throttled up and turned to the right just a little bit. That will likely just be argued as it was Kyle Busch trying to get around the 45 truck. I don't think you can make a call there, but it still happened under caution, so it will at least be a one-race suspension for the driver of the 18. This, however, happened under green and was deemed unavoidable by NASCAR because of the way they were racing, and it was also during a 4-wide situation. Still a very hard impact for Friesen and Peters, hitting the wall, going about 62 miles an hour. Fortunately, those water barrels are there. Lap 140 after the restart, the 50 truck of Gio Selzy gets to the inside, the 52 truck of Stuart Friesen. Friesen leaves just a little bit of the bottom lane open, and Selzy fills that gap. On the inside, we have a 3-wide battle for third position, but it looks like now the 60 truck of Casey Mears has lunged ahead with the yellow flag waving once again. This is the race back to the caution in a battle between the 52 and 50 trucks. At the stripe, here comes the 50 down on the inside, but using the momentum off the top, it is Friesen to lead the field back to the caution. Lap 141, the number 18 truck of Ty Gibbs gets to the very inside of the 09 of Stephen Parsons and turns Parsons around on the front straightaway. Green flag comes back out with just 4 laps to go. The 50 truck jumps up to the outside to try and get the momentum on the 52 of Friesen and potentially pin him down on the bottom, but he runs it just a little bit too wide, allowing Friesen to clear him. And then the 50 truck goes up to the cushion, trying to find just a little bit more moisture. Can't quite do it. And it allows the lap truck of Chase Briscoe to get in the way and ultimately cost Gio Selzy a shot at winning. Now a battle for second between Casey Mears and Selzy. Looks like Mears is going to be able to take it down on the inside. Just 2 laps to go for Stuart Friesen now, with the 30 truck of Brennan Poole closing the gap as well. And with the white flag out, the 60 truck of Casey Mears has raced his way into second. He is 6/10 behind Friesen, and has the lap truck of Briscoe in between first and second. And it's just a little bit too big of an obstacle for Casey Mears to overcome. Off of turn number 4, Stuart Friesen wins the inaugural Pinty's truck race on dirt at the Bristol Motor Speedway dirt track, locking himself into the playoffs. And this is exactly what the Hallmar Friesen Racing team needed after having a very tough start to the year and an even harder 2020 season. Finally getting back into victory lane on the dirt here at Bristol, and their first win with manufacturer Toyota. It's also important to note that point leader coming into the race, the 2 truck of Sheldon Creed, brought it home in 5th. And so first of all, the driver who took home the Kyle Busch bounty money is the driver of the number 17 truck for LGR, Kyle Larson. He took home the $100,000 by finishing in 16th position, just about 3 truck lengths ahead of Martin Truex Jr. In your regular season point standings, following the Bristol Motor Speedway dirt race, Sheldon Creed still sits atop the point standings with another top 5 finish. He has 5 top 5s this season. That's actually the best of any competitor so far. And he has extended his point gap to 16 points above the new second-place runner in points, Casey Mears, who moved up 4 spots in the point standings with his runner-up finish here at Bristol, surpassing his teammate Ty Dillon as well, who drops down 1 spot in the standings down to 3rd, 25 points out of the point lead. Ty Gibbs stays in 4th in the standings, 29 points out of the lead. Matt Crafton moves up 2 spots to 5th, 32 points out. Dawson Cram drops down 3 spots to 6th, he's 35 points out. Grant Enfinger drops down 2 spots in the standings to 7th. He is 45 points out of the point lead. Brett Holmes stays in 8th in the standings. He has 62 points out of the point lead. Then Christian Eckes and John Hunter Nemechek are tied for 9th position in the standings, with Eckes getting the tiebreaker with his win coming earlier this season at Auto Club Speedway. In your playoff standings, the drivers who are locked in to the playoffs with wins so far this season are Sheldon Creed, Austin Hill, Casey Mears, Ty Gibbs, Matt Crafton, Christian Eckes, Ben Rhodes, Ryan Truex, and Stuart Friesen with his win right here at Bristol. Don't worry about Kyle Busch being listed on this chart. It's because he's in the top 30 in the standings. He is currently 29th in points because of his 5 starts this year. Also, because he has ran 5 races, and because he's suspended now for at least this weekend, he is not eligible to run any more Camping World Truck Series races this season. He's already used up all 5, so he will most definitely drop back in the standings and quickly outside the top 30, where you will no longer be seeing him on our playoff list because he is a Cup Series regular and he is ineligible for the playoffs in this division. The best of the rest currently is Ty Dillon, who is 41 points above the cutoff line, then Dawson Cram 31 above, Enfinger 21. Then we have a really close battle in the standings from 14th to 19th. Brett Holmes only 4 points above, John Hunter Nemechek only 2 points above, then Ty Majeski and Austin Theriault tied for the cutoff line, Majeski getting the tiebreaker. Then Timothy Peters is 7 points out of making the playoffs. Zane Smith, last season's Rookie of the Year winner, 11 points out, and Parker Kligerman is 16 points out of the playoffs currently. And so now, after just a quick commercial break, we'll be back right here on Post Tech for my personal favorite segment of the show, Q&A. NASCAR on Speed Station is being brought to you by RFJ, the official home of the RFJ AI series, by Knife Friend 725, the brains behind Project Retroval, and by Anthony's Online Simulation League. Welcome back to Post Tech. We're going to be jumping right into the questions, but first I just want to give the disclaimer again. If I mispronounce any names or handles, I do apologize, but it is bound to happen. And once again, I'm going to be changing up the way we do questions just a little bit. I'm not going to be politicking quite as much on the questions that we may have already answered, or kind of our self-answering, you know, how I kind of, not necessarily beat around the bush, but maybe supply too much reasoning for what I'm talking about. So, you know, with the simpler questions, I'm going to try and keep it simple, stupid, and, you know, get to the point sooner, I guess you could say. So now, question number 1, from closed captions available. During Phoenix, I said that Roush could typically only have 1 car per race be good. You said Newman was a top 5 car and Buescher was running 31st at that point in time, which is true. If Newman is retiring at the end of the year, could Roush be downsizing next season as a result to only have Buescher at the Cup level? Or is Roush still committed to running 2 cars for next year? So I personally feel like Roush is going to be a 1-car team next year. Now, in comparison to the way they were 10, 15 years ago, that might sound terrible. You know, they were fielding 6 cars, 5 of them were full-time. When you look back at when they were really experiencing big success early, with Mark Martin, especially when they almost won the championship back in 1990. In my opinion, to this day, I still believe Mark Martin won the 1990 championship. I don't think that infraction at Richmond was real. But anyway, they were a very, very successful one-car team with just the 6-car of Mark Martin. Initially, the 16 team wasn't very good. They added the 16 team on, I believe, in 92 with then Trans Am youngster Wally Dullenbach, multi-time champion Trans Am. Really good driver in that. Wally Dullenbach Jr., not senior, the kart official at the time. But Roush would actually find more success if it was just one car than if it was two. Because right now, like I said then, they really can only run one car at a time and be successful at it with the current state of the organization. It's either been Buescher up front, Newman in the back, or Newman up front, Buescher in the back. Fortunately, at Charlotte, both cars had speed. And this year they made Jimmy Fenig competition director of the whole organization. He used to just be their super speedway guy. Now he runs over the whole organization. As I recall, he was the championship-winning crew chief with Kurt Busch back in 2004. That just proves how good he is. So if he could make Kurt Busch, mold him into a championship driver at that age, he is exactly what Roush needs right now to stay up front. But I personally believe that he would work best with just that one car to manage. And I think that they will most likely move Chris Buescher into the 6-car next year if Newman does retire, which is looking kind of likely. He wants to get into ownership, the business side of things, use up his college degree a little bit, I guess you could say, in comparison to what he's been doing, the last 20 years. Newman's going to be kind of moving on to more business-oriented things. I guarantee you he's probably still going to run at least the dirt race next year, or however many dirt races are going to be on the schedule next season. Because, Newman still wants to race. It's just he doesn't want to do it on a full-time basis, I believe, after this season. So Buescher's likely to go from the 17 to the 6, and the 17s is probably going to cease to exist unless they hire a pay driver or something like that. They need an incentive to keep that car open because right now the performance isn't there to keep two cars going. Now, a couple questions from NASCAR Fan 88 Official. This is where I, stop politicking quite as much. Could Red Bull Racing come back to NASCAR in the next 2 or 3 seasons, and who would drive for the team? So first I'm going to answer the who would drive for the team aspect. Possibly like a Brett Moffitt or someone like that. I would imagine that they would likely try and partner with Toyota again because I don't really see too many other makes working with Red Bull if they came back because, they're kind of hard to follow. Like right now they have Honda in Formula 1. That's not really going to translate over to NASCAR any well, but fortunately, I guess for them, if they want to do a NASCAR program, Honda isn't going to be in F1 for very long. But here's the reason why I don't think Red Bull's going to come back. Honda's leaving them. Red Bull's trying to put together their own engine program. If they're building their own F1 engines, trust me, they're not going to want to get involved with stock car racing anytime soon because they saw how hard it was the first time, and now with their own in-house Red Bull engine program, I think that they've got too much that they're focusing on with trying to win a world championship in Formula 1 than to get back into stock car racing anytime soon. Next question from NASCAR Fan 88 Official. These next few ones are from the same user. Could the NASCAR Cup Series host a race at Montreal? Yeah, I mean, it was a very good racetrack, Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. It was definitely one of the highlights of the Busch Grand National Series schedule for a little while there. Well, actually, that would have been in nationwide territory. Only one Busch Series race, under that name was ran there in 2007. But it was one of the better races of the year, mainly just because of how many crazy drivers would come out, how many road course ringers, because the stars of the Cup Series, for the most part, were running, the Cup Series schedule. So they didn't want to, make the travel up to Montreal. So you saw a lot of different drivers, road course ringers, kind of, in a way, turn the race into a Trans Am race when it came to how many road course ringers would show up. But I'm not saying it was better, but I'm saying it was so different from your average weekend that it was good, just because it was almost like watching a different series. Follow-up question, who do you think is going to try to make a Cup start if the NASCAR Cup Series goes to Montreal? Like I mentioned before, if Ron Fellows is going to run a race, it's going to be there. It's either going to be Montreal or, Canadian Tire, which he has an ownership stake in. So Montreal would be a very good opportunity for him to show up. But how about Jacques Villeneuve? I mean, family name is in the racetrack name. My bet would be on him. He's been wheeling Euro cars a lot lately. He's still got the talent. I mean, he's only 50 years old right now. So he's still got the ability to run a NASCAR Cup Series car very well. Harry Gant was winning up until, I believe, age 53. So that's still there for Jacques if he wants to try it out and run a Cup car at Montreal. I believe that is a very good option for a team to want to pick him up. As you recall, I believe it was 2009, either 09 or 2010, when Boris Said and Max Pappas were battling in that photo finish. Well, the car that finished third was Villeneuve. So, even though that was, 12 years ago now, I would still say that he would be one of the top candidates to make the start there. Obviously, you're given road course ringers. If Scott McLaughlin loosens up his IndyCar schedule a little bit, or if there's fortunately an off weekend whenever the Cup race would be ran, you could possibly see him run the Cup Series race at Montreal as well, because he's a very good Cup Series driver. He proved that in his first start, Circuit of the Americas. Next question, could Dodge come back to NASCAR, and which team would switch to Dodge if they come back? Dodge is not going to come back to NASCAR until the new engine formula. And to my knowledge, that's going to come back in 2024. And that's only a maybe. Because no new manufacturers are going to join until this new engine formula. Because really, why would you join now if you have to switch to a whole new engine formula in less than 4 years? It's just kind of a waste of money running these first few seasons. Maybe it's just to get your feet wet, but if you don't have any good engines, because you're not spending all the money you can on the current engine package, what would really the point in doing it be? As you recall, Toyota, when they joined back in 07, even though this wasn't an engine thing, Toyota joined the Cup Series while the COY car that we call it now, the Gen 4 car, was being phased out and the COT was coming in. So Toyota teams built up this whole stockpile of Gen 4 cars only to have it be useless by the next season. So it kind of instantly set them back. I don't think any new manufacturers want to join and have that exact same thing happen with their engine program. Just be stuck in the back for an extra few years. I don't think that's in the cards for any new manufacturers. In particular, Dodge, a make that is definitely puts a lot of emphasis on success. Mopar power, Mopar no car, all that stuff. They definitely want to succeed if they were to show up, and it's just not the right time to try and join. If they would have joined again in 2016 or just never left, if they would have joined that soon, things would have been better. I know it wasn't their choice to leave necessarily this time. It was no teams wanted them. But if no teams want you then, why would they want you now? But the only team that I could even see going to them would be Richard Petty if he's desperate enough. But right now the situation looks great with Myatt Snyder and their RCR deal. RPM's kind of become like a Wood Brothers team. It's built in-house of Childress, just like how the Woods cars are built in-house of Penske. So it's one of those internal deals like that. So it's working out good for them. And Chip Ganassi can go anywhere, so I guess my money would be on Chip or Rick Ware if he could get some kind of manufacturer deal. That would be a good incentive for him. Another question, could Jeb Burton land a Cup ride anytime soon? He has already got a deal with Colleague, his NASCAR Xfinity Series team, to run a couple races this year. They have yet to announce them. My money is on either a super speedway or a short track, because that's the type of tracks that Jeb likes. And Jeb Burton will already run a couple Cup races this season. That's already been confirmed. And now, the final question from this group, could any new manufacturers be joining NASCAR in the next couple of years? Kind of already answered that myself by accident already, but not until the new engine formula. So just wait until 2024 or around there until we start thinking about new manufacturers. From RFJ, would the Stewart Evernham team be 4, 3, or 2 cars? Same with Haas, and what about manufacturers for both teams? Both teams would likely be 2 cars. My money would be on a third part-time car for either operation. So Stewart Evernham would likely run the 4 and 14, or, if Evernham wants to bring back one of his old numbers, the 9 and 19 are already taken, so it'd be 91 or something, 79, one of the multitude of numbers that he ran as a car owner in the past. Gene Haas would likely run just 2 Ford Mustangs. Stewart Evernham would be with GM. Haas would be with Ford still. Haas would likely run the 10 and 41 cars. I doubt it being 41 because that's the inverse of Tony's number. So they're likely going to make it 10 and 0. As you recall, the old Haas CNC team ran the number 0. Cole Custer has already ran the 00 numerous times in his development. that's probably what will likely happen with that organization. So my bet, Stuart Evernham, Chevrolet, Haas with Ford. And will the next-gen car be fully spec, or will teams be allowed to adjust parts to keep the engineering part of the sport alive? So the chassis itself is going to be spec. The suspension components will be built in-house by organizations or bought from other ones, so those are not mandated. It's just the chassis structure itself. That's more of a way that NASCAR can regulate both cost and safety to ensure that teams are not cutting off parts of the car that are necessary to keep a driver from injury, just in the hope that they can have less weight in the car itself to put in more ballast in and have it handle better, aka speed over safety. NASCAR doesn't want that to happen. So that's why the chassis themselves and their construction in particular, the roll cage and all that, will be manufactured by Dallara and not from the teams themselves. But all the components that make the car steer, drive, handle, all that, that's going to be built in-house still. No spec engine programs either. The Gibbs engine program still with Toyota. The Roush Yates program still with Ford. The RCR Hendrick Motorsports program has merged. Those are going to be the main engine suppliers, but there's still the complete option of building your own engines. Like if Jeremy Clement's program went to Cup, they'd be building in-house engines. And beyond that, the fully spec bodies, obviously, those are from 5-star. That's no problem there. But the engineering side of the sport will still be here when it comes to suspension components, anything that makes the car handle. And obviously, everything that's spec, you're allowed to adjust on for the most part, except for the safety aspects. But like the independent rear suspension, all that stuff, you can work on that, and you can tune this car to your heart's content to try and get your setup right at any particular racetrack. But what NASCAR is trying to do is keep the safety aspect to a maximum, but also keep the racing good, allow teams to work on the cars, and also they want to have one car for every type of racetrack. That's also another cost-saving measure. They don't want you building 35 cars a year to run the season. Drove the cost way, way too high. They want to get to a 7-car limit per team. And by team, I don't mean like a Hendrick Motorsports. I mean the 48 team in that instance. So if you own 4 cars, your team limit is 28 cars, as opposed to a good 80-some that these teams run nowadays, because they build 1 car per race, more or less, and build a backup car along with it. It just has made the cost way, way too high. I mean, you could run a dealership of stock cars if you were Roger Penske, let's say. Then NASCAR wants to keep that down, keep the amount of cars that you have to build to stay competitive down. And because these cars are spec, chassis, you can get the rolling chassis relatively easy. It's going to actually bring more people into the sport, not just through cost, but also the ease of getting them, the availability of these race cars. Because teams currently, they like to keep things hidden. That's why a lot of things were mentioned earlier about Gen 6 cars being destroyed instead of sold off, is because these teams don't want you seeing their advantages that they got over the course of the years. And in certain cases, NASCAR will start putting those teams under the microscope if they see an advantage that they don't like if it gets leaked somehow. So in that respect, this will allow a whole lot more people in because of the availability of the Dallara chassis and the 5-star body. It's not like you need thousands of years of experience to do this. It's not like how the current teams, you already have to be there for 30 years like Hendrick or Gibbs to be any bit successful. This will be conductive to new teams with enough money to build a car, just like it was back in the day. If you're smart enough to build the car and get a good setup under you, you can go out there with just 1 car in your race shop, and you can bring home a good finish in a cup race. That's what Mark Martin did back in 1982, and it's what somebody could do next year in the Cup Series, and that is what I am personally excited about. And now from the Alex Mill, with the Truck Series running on the Daytona Beach circuit, a track with 2 different surface types, could any teams be interested in a rally racing driver due to their experience on racing with multiple surface types? So the way that I see it, a lot of teams are actually, believe it or not, going to be hiring super speedway ringers for this race. Now, granted, this is a multi-surface racetrack with very tight braking zones, 2-mile straightaways down into 1/10 of a mile turns. However, 2-mile straightaways, that means you need a driver who is smart enough to know how to manipulate the draft, because the Truck Series is going to be running a very, very high downforce package to keep these trucks under control on a 2-mile straightaway. And the trucks are also going to be running restricted as well. So it's essentially going to turn into a plate race with tight corners. So I don't expect too many rally drivers being in it because of their lack of experience of manipulating a pack. Because down 2 mile straights, you're going to need those plate racing skills, believe me, because there's going to be drivers building such huge runs on you because of the amount of downforce. Expect the amount of downforce that we ran at Talladega on the Cup cars on the trucks. However, these trucks on the quarter panels, the left front and right front quarter panels, will be running 1-inch rubber wickers as well, trying to keep the left and right side quarter panels down on the sides to build more downforce. So they will be building a tremendous wake behind them for the trucks to suck up on behind them. So it really wouldn't be that conductive to a race win, I wouldn't think, to get a rally racing driver. As much sense as it sounds like it makes, the race will most likely turn into another super speedway race. So I don't think that that's the plan for very many teams, at least not for our organization, as we will be fielding Chase Briscoe in the number 53 truck due to his experience on dirt surfaces and stuff like that, but also due to the fact that he has a lot of experience at running super speedways already in his career. No wins to show for it, but he is an experienced super speedway racer and has a lot of time behind the wheel of a race car manipulating a pack. Next question from RFJ, will NASCAR ever allow teams to have 5 cars again? That looks like that's almost certain for next season because it looks like NASCAR is going to be getting rid of the team cap because you have to make it into every race on time. Like I mentioned in the last episode of Post Tech, there's a hypothetical situation where you could knock out a championship contender with a part-time runner if you field too many entries. If you're just one team, you could knock out your best car and accidentally get someone who's in a part-time 6th entry, let's say, into the race, and it would be detrimental to any championship run. Stuff like that would be able to actually happen with our current rule set, so that's why NASCAR is going to most likely get rid of the team cap next season. Next question from Todoroki, are there any former NASCAR drivers such as Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt Jr., etc. looking to become NASCAR Cup team owners? So Jeff Gordon looks like he's going to inherit Rick Hendrick's Hendrick Motorsports once Hendrick decides to either step down or something unfortunately happens to him. So Jeff already, does own the 48 car, but it looks like he will become the full owner of Hendrick Motorsports once Rick decides to step down. So that's already kind of set in stone. Dale Earnhardt Jr. already has partnered with that Tommy Baldwin Racing organization in the number 71 team. We already saw, they ran the leaf filter colors. JRM supplied equipment for the All-Star race. They're trying to get a deal to field a second car for Josh Berry at North Wilkesboro. Nothing has come of that yet, but they're trying to do it right now. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. may start a Cup Series team next season. A full-on Cup Series team. We don't know about it yet, but Junior's definitely been teasing the possibility of fielding a Cup Series program and has been talking about how it's either now or never. And so with the next-gen car coming in, costs coming down, I think now is the time for Earnhardt Jr. to do it, and I can definitely see him going for a team ownership role. Whether or not that includes running one race a year, we'll see. But, that's how things have been working out over the last few years in the Xfinity Series side. Kind of it does make you wonder if Junior may make another return to the Cup Series if he does, in fact, become a team owner. Because right now it's looking likely that he will be a team owner next season. Whether it be a co-ownership with Tommy Baldwin or just his own independent program, we don't know that as of yet. But Earnhardt absolutely wants to be a team owner by next year. Jimmy Johnson, I don't really know about his circumstances. I kind of doubt him wanting to become a team owner. I could see him wanting to be a driver coach, maybe at Chip Ganassi once his career winds down in IndyCar. Maybe not a driver coach for the IndyCar team, but maybe one for, the NASCAR organization. Whether or not he would come back to Hendrick Motorsports in some kind of manager-style role, that I'm not sure about. But I don't see team ownership in Johnson's future, but he will play a role in our sport. Whether it be IndyCar, NASCAR, or IMSA, whatever it may be, he will be involved in motorsports for years to come. I just doubt team ownership in, say, Cup. Maybe something lower. Maybe he'll field like an ARCA car or something if he does stock car racing as an owner, but I don't think he'll be a Cup Series owner. Now the final question from Switchblade. Can drivers DNQ the championship 4? If so, what happens in a hypothetical situation where all 4 fail to qualify? So, NASCAR had a plan for this last year. All 4 drivers did get provisionals to make Atlanta. Now, none of them got provisionals to make any of the other races in the rounds through the playoffs. Now, obviously, it's theoretically possible that coming into Darlington, all 16 of them could fail to make the race if enough cars show up. But, obviously what happens in a situation where that would happen is none of the drivers would advance in points. In a situation where, say, if it were to happen in the Championship 4, unfortunately NASCAR thought of that last season by giving all 4 of them provisionals. That's the only way that you get a provisional this year, and last season as well, unless it's something like Daytona 500 qualifying, where if you get first or second in qualifying, you don't have to advance through the heat races, something like that. That's not exactly a provisional, though, because this is guaranteed qualifying spots. But that's not a possibility under our current rules package. Those are the only 4 positions all year long that are not contested in qualifying or in a heat race or in some other fashion. Obviously, they all 8 of the round of 8 contenders could DNQ for the 3 races in the round of 8, let's say. But then it would just fall back on playoff points. So then whoever had the most playoff points of the 8 in order of the top 4 would advance to the Championship 4 in a hypothetical scenario where, say, all 8 of them DNQ for the 3 consecutive races. But still, they would all 4 have a provisional for Atlanta, so it would still be a battle for the championship in the final race of the year. So fortunately, NASCAR has thought of this scenario already, and it cannot happen. Because imagine if it did. I guess it would have to go back to wins, kind of like the 2011 championship between Stewart and Edwards. So that would be kind of a strange situation, but it's theoretically possible to happen if we did not have the 4 Championship 4 provisionals, but fortunately, it cannot happen because that would lead to a very ugly situation for NASCAR, especially as a sanctioning body. And so, folks, that does it for episode number 10 of Post Tech. We hope that you have enjoyed it. The next time you'll be seeing us, we'll be down at Bristol Motor Speedway for the Food City Dirt Race, the first NASCAR Cup Series race on dirt since 1970. It's been 51 years, and it's going to be a fantastic reunion of America's top stock car racing drivers on dirt. We'll see you for all the action in Tennessee.